We'll move to the main event of the evening, which is
Let's do it.
Yep.
All right.
Which is the light heavyweight title fight between Jan Blachowicz, the champion, who somehow is the underdog at plus 200, against Israel Adesanya, who is the minus 240 favorite as the challenger.
Wow.
What do you think,
Yeah,
Lou?
I think those odds are right. I think that Blachowicz is making his first title defense. And he's a beast. What can you say? He's gonna knock you. He's gonna knock you out. He's got KO power in both hands. His kicking game is great. This guy's a beast. This guy's a beast. He's hot right now. The last time he lost wasn't it to oh my God, Thiago Santos, right? Thiago Santos knocked him the hell out.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. Yeah.
Yep. Since then, though, he's been streaking. He got his title shot, and he did the most with his opportunity. I like him in this fight. Let me rephrase that. I like him. I like his chances in this fight. However, you gotta go Adesanya right now. This dude is an all-around fighter. He's the closest thing that we have to a John Jones fighter, where John Jones could wrestle you, he'll knock you out, he'll take you down, he'll kick you, he'll elbow you, he'll do any and everything better than you. Adesanya has that about him. The only thing I've noticed in his fights is that he's open to a lot of punishment. He's taken punches to the face. He's gotten swollen up a little bit. So he is susceptible to stuff like that. However, this dude is such an all-around fighter. He's gotten hit. He's got a super tough chin. He'll throw elbows with you. He'll do it. He'll do everything possible to win the fight. And his mouth, I'm not a big fan of because he's real douchey. He comes off as a real douche. So I'm my heart is hoping for Blachowicz to just knock his socks off, but the realist in me has got to go Adesanya here because he's 20-0 in MMA right now. He's just on another level. He's on another level. And the UFC wants that super fight to happen with him and John Jones. And we'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But how awesome would that be for him to be the champ to face what we're assuming is going to be the heavyweight champion John Jones when he gets his little title shot? That would be the biggest fight in the history of the UFC. Both guys have been going back and forth. So it'll be a fantastic fight to see. But for this one, Blachowicz, he's an awesome striker. He's got power out the wazoo. Israel Adesanya, he's such a well-rounded fighter. He does everything so well. Minus, he's susceptible to taking a little bit of damage. He's just so good right now. So I think these odds are right where they're supposed to be.
I love that. So funny.
Yeah,
That's funny.
He did get knocked the hell out. That was funny to watch too. But he's a douche. I really don't like him. I mean, I haven't met him, so I can't say I don't like him personally. But he's a real douche from his public persona, and he's accepting it. He's taking and running with it. But he's just, like I said, he's just so well rounded in every aspect of the game. I can't pick against him in this fight. Not against Blachowicz. I just can't.
Before I go to Miles, just imagine if he wins this and he's the double champ, and then he would have the chance to be a triple champ.
Oh, that'd be ridiculous.
That would be crazy. He would be able to do something that I don't think anybody has ever done, being a three division champion. That would put him down as the all-time great if he was able to do that. I don't care what anybody says. If you can have three belts at once, you're the best.
Absolutely. And then he'd have to move up again to heavyweight to make that fight happen, coming from middleweight. Oh yeah, that would be, I'm salivating to see that fight. And then for those stakes would be amazing. But again, going back to this fight, Blachowicz, he's great. He's a fantastic fighter, got knockout power. He's got good defense. So I'm not giving him as little chance as we're giving Megan Anderson. But Israel Adesanya, he's too good right now, and there's no way around it. He's just too good.
What about you, Miles?
So real quick, Lou, Adesanya going for the triple belt or meatball sub sandwiches, which has you salivating more?
Oh, good question. Good question. You know what? I'm going meatballs because he's a douche. How about that?
Yeah, no, I feel that. Meatballs are not douchebags. That's the thing. They're just little
Exactly right.
nuggets.
They make me happy,
No?
Miles. They make me happy. You know?
Unless they give you the shits, then they're little douches. But other than
Yeah,
that, oh god! All right. So, god damn it! All right, so with this fight, setting food aside for 1 minute.
Yes.
In this fight, here are my concerns. Number one. Jan Jovic is a really good grappler. He's actually like an underrated grappler, I think. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He can, wrestle with the best of them. He is a slow starter, though. In his punching, yes, it's powerful, but there is a proficiency issue there. But he tries to make up for it with good evasion and movement and stuff like that. And then on the other side, you got Adesanya, who had a very successful kickboxing career before he ever stepped into the UFC. And ever since, he's just been refining his craft and getting better. So obviously, he's the more technically proficient guy in this fight, even if he's not necessarily the more powerful striker. I would say that's probably still Jan, just due to the fact that he's bigger in a heavier weight class, and Adesanya didn't bulk up to make the weight for this division. He's just fighting for what he's already at, like 180 something. So just by virtue of Jan Blachowicz being a decent striker and just being bigger, he's gonna have heavier punches. The problem is he's gonna have an issue landing them, right? Now, Israel Adesanya, the chink in his armor is his grappling ability, his ground defense. I mean, he can wrestle okay, but when he gets to the ground, he can problem solve. But he's not like gonna be tapping anybody soon. Anybody like choking him out. You know what I mean? That's not really his skill set. His skill set lies entirely in his hands. So I think this reminds me so much of the Paulo Costa fight, and I said it then, and I'm going to say it again. If Jan Blachowicz plays to his strengths and Adesanya's weaknesses, he's got a real shot here. But if he goes into this like Paulo Costa, like, no, I want to stand and strike, that's where he's going to get himself, in a real tough situation. Because, he can land those big, heavy strikes, but he creates big holes in his guard when he misses. And you can't do that with a guy like Adesanya, who's got the technical proficiency. He's got all the experience, in the world with his kickboxing, and he's learning as the fight goes on. So he's getting better every time you screw up. He just learns something new about you to use against you later. So, I mean, yes, he's got cinder block for hands. That's funny. When Jan Blachowicz connects, that definitely means something. But he's going to have to approach this in a very intelligent way. So that's why I see it as a knockout victory could go either way. It really depends on how the first two rounds of this fight goes. If Adesanya is able to have a fast start, get to work early, wear down Blachowicz before he has time to build up steam, and Adesanya, works on him, those punches can add up to a KO, especially if he can stay out of the way of the big, heavy punches that Jan is throwing. But on the other hand, if Blachowicz uses his superior wrestling and ground fighting ability to put Adesanya against the cage, get some takedowns, wear him down on the ground where he is mostly just lost. He's just trying to tread water. He doesn't have an advantage over Blachowicz. If he can utilize that and really wear down Adesanya, especially with some ground pound, those, close range elbows, like even if the guy's, on bottom and guard, you can still throw elbows. Hell, even if he's on top of you can still find a way to throw something. And Blachowicz would be landing more power in that exchange than I think Adesanya would be. And then in the later rounds, if he wants to stand and, maybe wear him down with some heavy punches, he can do that, but he's got to play to his strategies. And really, for Blachowicz, I'd be trying to make this like a TKO via like a ground and pound if it was going for a knockout victory. But he's also got a real shot at a submission victory because he's got the background and he's got more training in that arena than Adesanya could possibly catch up to. At this point, he's only like I think a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt. There's no way he can close that gap in time for this fight. If it goes to decision, I think all the stats in Adesanya's fighting style, again, if Blachowicz doesn't do the work he needs to do, Adesanya is going to rack up points on the card, and all the points or all the stats are pointing in his favor as well. So I would say if it goes to decision, probably Adesanya, but man, Blachowicz, don't do what Paulo Costa did. That was a real bad idea. Learn from that and don't do that.
Exactly.
Right.
Do a little bit more what Calvin Gastelum did but not tire out. Like he had Adesanya on the ropes. He hit him a few times. Adesanya was stumbling backwards, but then Gastelum gave him too much time to recuperate from that. Then he gassed out, and then Adesanya won that. He's not going to want it to be that way. I actually watched a video today of Jan Blachowicz training. He went into an icy lake and then just stood in there for like 10 minutes and then started striking. They just had him in there striking in the I don't know how cold it was, but it was ice. It was ice. Yeah.
Pretty cold. Yeah.
Real cold.
I assume he was in Poland, but he was standing in there striking for like a few minutes. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that I'm ever doing that. But this guy's doing it because he knows that he wants the win. It's crazy to think that he just won the title, and then already in his first defense, he's the plus 200 underdog. But it's because of the skills of Israel Adesanya. They did this video of Adesanya where he does this movement often where he throws a strike, and then literally right at the same time, he throws a leg kick along with it, to where the opponent avoids the strike. The first thing they think of is to avoid the strike, but then because they do that, they're in prime position for that leg kick to connect. And like, it's just the mind games that he does with that. The only thing with Adesanya that scares me is when he shows up for fights and when he doesn't. Like, you have all the fights where he shows up with the Costa and Gastelum, where he comes out and fights. You got to fight like Yoel Romero when he just stands there because he knows that Romero will get him with that one punch and then he can knock him out because his weight difference. You got these guys that are built so bigger than Adesanya because he's like this just skinny thing. He's coming into this fight at 190, I believe it is. Whereas Blachowicz is coming probably in at around 205, 210. So it's going to be like a 20, 30 pound difference. With that being said, I agree where Blachowicz is going to want to get up and pressure Adesanya, give him no room to move and no room to use all of his skills. He's not going to want to stand up. If he stands up, Israel Adesanya's got this all day because he has the speed. He's been able to do all these 5-round fights. He's got a little bit of a gas tank. He's able to game plan for this. Whereas Blachowicz is kind of like that rag to riches type story. He started out 1-5 in the UFC, was getting ready to get cut, and then since then he's been 8-1 with that one loss. He's improved his game plan, and it's been a big difference. But it's like he's got to use his weight in this. That's his one thing. He has to use his weight to his advantage, knowing that he has a 30-pound difference. I get the edge still to Adesanya. I think he's going to pull it out, but he needs to defend the strikes better than he did in the Gastelum fight. If he allows that to happen, Gastelum wasn't able to knock him out, but Blachowicz will. Because of, like he said, the cinder blocks for hands. But I give this Adesanya by decision.
Like, why are the odds so high, especially for Blachowicz, who's a plus 200 underdog, being the 205 champ? A few stats. Israel Adesanya's professional boxing record is 5-1. His professional kickboxing record is 95-5, and he's fought upwards of 220 pounds. So guys that have probably 30 to 40 pounds on him at the time. And obviously he's 20-0 MMA, as we know. But I think technically, if Blachowicz wants to win this fight, you obviously, like Miles said, I believe, you can't go in with the same game plan as Costa did. He was kind of tentative. I like what Kelvin Gastelum did against Adesanya, and where he pressured and put his back towards the cage. One thing I see in a flaw in Adesanya's game is sometimes I catch him, he's so flashy and he's so fluent with his striking that sometimes he moves backwards too much and not like horizontally and doesn't move side to side laterally enough. Sometimes he gets a little, not cocky, so to speak, but he gets a little confident where he'll kind of just back off. He'll kind of feel himself. And I saw he got caught in the Gastelum fight where he kind of didn't get knocked down, but he kind of like fell, but the cage caught him. And I think if Blachowicz I think Blachowicz could knock him out if he has the right game plan and a good amount of luck, but I think he has to pressure forward and get Adesanya on his back foot, get Adesanya to be a little bit lazy and back off towards the cage, like with his back to the cage. I think he could catch him. Like same thing Kelvin did. Kelvin pressured forward for a good amount of time. I don't think he hit hard enough to knock him out at the time because Kelvin was a welterweight, moved up to 185. Blachowicz has the size. He has the huge power. So I think if he does have the right game plan, it does go more in his favor. But then you look at Adesanya's track record in boxing, kickboxing, and MMA, you can't bet against him, you know? If Blachowicz catches him, he catches him. Because like Miles said before, Lewis said before, everyone in the UFC has a puncher's chance. But I think Adesanya is just going to outclass him. And I think it'll look similar to his fights against Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa, where it kind of just goes a little bit, feels it out, but then just you can see there's an obvious difference in the striking. And I see Jan going in with a good game plan mindset, but I see that going out the window quickly once he kind of realizes there's a little gap in that striking, or a big gap, so to say.
I'm curious, what do you guys think about, like, you know, the game plan is we always talk about, you know, it's a recurring theme with any fight, you got to have the right game plan. But how does Blachowicz get inside on Adesanya? You know, do you think that I don't think he's going to fear the striking power, you know, coming in so much heavier than Adesanya. But at the same time, do you think he's skilled enough to be able to get in there and even be able to pressure him to the cage like that, or make him take those steps back? Because I don't really I want to see him win this fight. I really, really do. But I just think that Adesanya, you know, and it goes to his demeanor in the octagon. He's probably gonna have the flashes of entrance. He's gonna come in and he's gonna be himself. And you know, and when you said that he was in that lake, that tells me that his mentality is, you know, he's a stone cold killer. But at the same time, when you get in there and you get in front of the guy, it's like, well, he's a douche. Now I want to just knock that off. Do you think he'll be disciplined enough? You know what I mean? How would he be able to get through that strike of Adesanya if he could? How do you think that would happen?
What's crazy is what is with these fighters, like you mentioned, where they get kind of lazy and just move back and move their head because they're so cocky. That's what happened with Anderson Silva against Chris Weidman. He got cocky, he was doing this, and then Weidman just popped him and knocked him out in the first fight. Adesanya does that a lot, but with the fighters that he fought before, we mentioned Gastelum, Whittaker, Costa. It was never the same situation each time. And Gastelum, that was kind of like Gastelum's on the way down. All those guys went away from their game plans. Except for Gastelum in the first 2 rounds. He had the game plan, but he went away with it, partly because he got gassed out. He's known to get gassed out because he went guns blazing right away. Blachowicz probably could do that right away, but I feel like he'll be more patient with it. He's not going to waste it all right away and then get unlucky where Adesanya was against the cage or kind of kept him up. Yeah. And then because Gastelum gassed out, it allowed Adesanya time to get back into it and like get himself together. And then he just went to his game plan because it was like Gastelum was already done. He beat himself before that, and then he just got beat. Blachowicz needs, just like you said, he needs to stay disciplined. He needs to go in. He needs to start out early. Like he can't be too patient. And this is a fight where he has to get going, guns blazing right away. Try and get up close because Adesanya, you don't know how he's going to be against the takedown. He's been beat by it in the past, but he still won. But you don't know if he's going to be able to defend it or if it works in Blachowicz' favor right away. If he could do that right away, it'll be interesting to see how Adesanya adjusts to that, and if his gas tank wears out because of it, because of the 30-pound weight difference.
Right.
Because he's coming in 190. Yeah.
I feel like what you were saying earlier, how a fighter's confidence, especially you see it in guys against Adesanya, when they get in there, what you were saying, trying to get to the inside technically, I feel like a fighter's confidence has a lot to do with that. Because when you get in there and you have your game plan, you want to get to the inside, you want to box him, you want to get him going like towards his back towards the cage, get him on his back foot. When he comes in there and he's such a high-level striker, when he starts popping you with jabs and he starts hitting you with right hands, he's not hitting you that hard, but he's popping you. And he keeps tapping you, then he's hitting you with kicks, and it's just you're very overwhelmed. Your confidence goes out the window very quickly. Especially like it's difficult because these guys are all stone cold killers, especially Blachowicz. And I saw it with like Paulo Costa. Like he comes in, he's a big guy, got heavy hands, but he gets in there and Adesanya's real smooth, he's fluent, and he just starts popping him. He's popping him, and you kind of see he almost has it's almost like a mental block, to be completely honest, where he's like, if I let my hands go, I'm gonna get caught. So it's kind of hard for those guys to like trust themselves and let their hands go. We've seen it time and time again with Adesanya's opponents, where they kind of lack that confidence once they get in there.
Yeah, no, this is going to be just as much a test of Blachowicz' coach as it is of him, because once you can game plan all you want, but there's the other side of that equation: is your fighter going to do it? And once you show up, if your fighter's not doing it, you as the coach, it's on you to go do whatever you need to do to make him do it. Whether it's harken back to a thing that happened in training, or like slap him in the face real quick and be like, "All right, are we here to win, or like what's going on? Do we come out here to lose? Like what's the game plan?" Right? So yeah, I think that the coach is going to have to be very, very on Blachowicz and really push him to, I guess what in Blachowicz's mind would be take chances, right? Like let the hands go a little bit more, create some feints, create some fakes to close distance, get into the takedowns, put Adesanya in a place where he's generally uncomfortable, because that can work both ways. If Adesanya is not able to keep him in striking range and he finds himself in these grappling situations that Blachowicz is generally better prepared for, I think that's gonna affect him mentally as well, because again, he's got kind of the douchey like, oh, I'm the best, sort of thing. And the minute you touch that, it fucks with him,
Yeah.
But I think there's the other thing here is the training that goes into this. It's easier for Adesanya to find a fighter that would better prepare him for Blachowicz than it is for Blachowicz to find a training partner that'll prepare him for Adesanya. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Adesanya is a hard guy to find a training partner who will emulate his
unless
style
you got
enough
John
to prepare
Jones,
you.
but yeah.
He doesn't have John Jones. He
Yeah.
doesn't have John Jones. So.
Yeah, that's definitely true, because like he's just a specimen of himself. It's hard to find a guy, like I said, unless you're lucky enough to have John Jones there, because he's the closest guy that reminds me of him. And then the one guy that had a great game plan for it was Dominic Reyes, but then he lost that by decision, and then shows up a few months ago, and then just. He basically didn't show up. Like in my head, I'm like, what happened to this Dominic Reyes, where he had a perfect game plan against John Jones, then he comes in and then he just gets beat by Jan Blachowicz. Granted, different matchup, different time, whatnot, but it's like, I wonder if he like watches any of that fight and is like, I see John Jones as a similar guy, and then maybe I could use some of that, but then he doesn't fight that way. So then I'm like, the only way he can really get into this is if he gets close right away. Like the bell rings, first round, boom. He tries to get in there quickly, because Adesanya, he has those quick legs and those quick hands. It's just like he can hit you from both sides just like that, and he's really good with setting up shots. Like I said, he'll come in with the hand, but then follow it up on the other side right away with the kick. He's really good at that. Like that's his bread and butter. But I'd be interested.
I think a big part of Blachowicz's game is going to have to be clinch work here, because that's
Absolutely.
something that, even though Adesanya's got a big kickboxing career, kickboxing doesn't involve a lot of clinch work. So that's something he would have to be picking up as he goes along. So I think if anything, that's the key here, because it's the bridge between getting past Adesanya's range in striking and putting him into grappling situations he's not ready for. You can work in the clinch, do your damage, land those heavy punches, then take him to the wrestling to wear him down a little bit, then put him back in clinch. Or if you get back to your feet, have a strategy to work back to the clinch. That should be home base for this whole fight if Blachowicz has a chance.
How do you feel about Adesanya's gas tank if that were to happen? Do you think he'll be able to last?
He won't run out of gas, because we've already seen that. We've already seen that. He's not willing. he's not going to be the aggressor. He's not going to look to attack you
Yeah.
first. He's waiting to counter strike you. So I don't think he's going to be the one that runs out of gas first. And that's the point I was going to make too. Is that I think Blachowicz is going to be safe on his gas tank unless he balls to the walls and take him down from the first couple minutes. Adesanya's not going to attack you. So as long as he stays in the pocket a little bit and stays back, maybe shoots a couple jabs and tries to take down every once in a while, that would be, I think, his road to victory. Because Adesanya's not going to strike. He's not going to attack you first. So I don't think necessarily Blachowicz is the only one that will have gas issues if he just goes balls to the walls and just starts to take down ground and pound from the first minute of the fight. He's going to be gassed by, the early third round, you know what I mean, around there. Sure. But I don't see it happening again, Yeah.
I think having a conversation about gas tank with this matchup in particular is kind of difficult because they would both have a gas tank for two different things, right? Like one of them has a gas tank clearly for long-term striking matches. The other one would have more of a gas tank for the close quarters stuff, the wrestling, the clinch work, the groundwork. So, I mean, it kind of depends on who's able to put the other person in that uncomfortable position, because then that's where the gas tank really kind of comes out. Like Adesanya, he can stand and trade for, 5 rounds, but can he wrestle for 5 rounds? Can he ground fight for 5 rounds? I don't think he can. I think that would be the way to gas him out. And even if they got back to the feet, then he would be tired. Then he wouldn't be as smooth. Then he'd start making mistakes. But again, if Blachowicz can't figure out that clinch work key and figure out how to put that into his game, probably going to need some leg kicks as well to hopefully, slow down Adesanya's footwork, if anything. Then, I mean, if this is a standing and trading fight, then Blachowicz is at the disadvantage, 100%.
All in all, though, it's going to be a very entertaining fight.
Great fight, absolutely.
This whole card is just loaded. Is loaded. Hopefully, I get a meatball sandwich out of that. But we're talking about
we'll discuss that later.
Afterwards. But
so, who are we picking for this fight? I don't think anybody made a pick.
Adesanya.
Adesanya.
Man, this one was tough. That's why I divvy up my decisions according to like how the fight will come out. So like if I'm adding up the points, you got Adesanya by victory, Blachowicz by submission. KO seems to go either way, but I'm leaning towards Adesanya just because that's his thing. So that would be like a 2-for-1. So Adesanya overall gets more categories in those outcomes, So
I think I think Blachowicz is going to have success early with taking him down, but I feel like he's going to get tired out. Somehow he's going to get tired out because he's going to put too much energy into that. And I see like a 4th round knockout by Adesanya just because of Blachowicz getting tired out, and then Adesanya can get that game going. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be by a leg kick.
Oh,
that's kick.
Specific.
Yeah, that's specific, dude.
Meatball sandwich if you're right about that. If you're right, if the light heavyweight championship ends with a calf kick, I'll buy all you guys a sandwich.
Hey, let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Either way,
there's no way that happens. There's no way.
Hey, wait a minute, wait. So if it ends either way on a leg kick, I get a meatball sandwich. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna make some calls. I'm gonna have them coming in with cement shin guards. We're gonna make this happen.
But the transition from
that's awesome.
UFC